Okay, so I've had a bunch of stuff laying around. I have to redo this audio because of the stutteriness in the original video, but I've had this router laying around that I've basically done nothing with. It's the Linksys EA6500. It's kind of the version 2 of it. So I finally factory reset it and oh, am now taking the time to set it up with OpenWRT. So there's a little bit of him and Han here, but we're going to go through and set it up and also put something else on it on top of OpenWRT. So we've got to go through, do the first setup after factory reset, and go from there. So it's got 4 Ethernet ports, the WAN port, 2 USB ports, so that you can do different things with it. So we basically skip the whole smart Wi-Fi setup and just have it set up by default so that I can go in with default password admin and go from there. So it doesn't quite matter. It does take a second to reset everything. And of course I have to deal with fighting against the Starlink stuff and my home Wi-Fi stuff. But we finally get in, and I've got to find the default root password and whatnot, of course. So basically, kind of finally get that, type it in, get into the panel. So there's some things of note. I have to turn off Dark Reader in order to make it a little bit more readable. And kind of, I try and figure out what part of it the actual firmware firmware updates take place in, and I ignore like half of the stuff that I come across. So it takes a little bit of clicking around. Nope. Troubleshooting. Wow, you can identify my thing. Okay, so I finally find it in the connectivity, I believe. Yeah, connectivity. So I've already downloaded OpenWRT to my computer, and so once I find it, it warns me like you could do bad things to it. It's going to take a second to install the firmware. So the nice thing about it is once it reboots, it's got to wait a second, and then we can finally reboot it. So once we reboot it, you'll notice that the dashboard is quite a bit different. So we input default password. It does warn us to change the password. And it notes our password, our router, our architecture, CPU, firmware version, like the target and things like that. It shows us the status of all our ports and things that go with that. So I would attempt to connect my phone to it, but it wouldn't quite work out because it doesn't push out enough power to do that. So you've got different routing stuff. So if you want to like tell your router how to route things manually, you have that option here in the routing tab. And then we want to make sure we have SSH access for the next thing that we want to do in another video. But that's kind of not so important per se. But yeah, I do still neglect to change the IP. I believe I do that later on, the IP settings. So DHCP, DNS, we go in. we eventually find the IP stuff that we want to change. And OpenWRT is nice because it has really cool DNS settings that you can set up all over the place. So we go into our interfaces, we set up the IP to be the .8. But then I get a genius idea. We want it to be a really nice number on our network. So we do that, and then we apply everything and go from there. So it's going to disconnect us from the 1.1.1 and reconnect to Starlink, but I'm doing the IP change to avoid the IP conflict with whoever gets to it responds first. So it's just a bunch of waiting for the network interface to readjust. So Starlink's noted, but we're just waiting for the right interface for my Ethernet port to connect up to the 6.9 network. And then here we are. And notice it turns all dark again. So, well, it's nice. This OpenWRT is a little bit more readable in dark mode. But we will go through all the different tabs and stuff. And yeah. So OpenWRT has a number of packages you can install into it. It's basically a Linux distro for routers. But this video is not the one we're going to do that. So we need to change. We've got the router password. We've got our system stuff. We can change stuff around in there. Yeah. So we've our different tabs. Let's see. Okay, so after we turn off dark mode, it's a little bit more readable to get through when not in dark mode. So we can go to our wireless settings, and we can actually connect to other networks. So you've got different network devices on it, obviously. You've got your wireless network stuff. It tells you what antennas it has on it. Our DHCP and DNS is pretty obvious. You can set up custom URLs for within the network pretty easily. OpenWRT is very open about allowing you to do that, just like a lot of firewalls will. You can block certain URLs that way or have your own custom DNS setups. So yeah. So DNS settings, let's see. Yeah, all of that in there. Then we go into the networking, diagnostics for troubleshooting different things, your logs and whatnot. Your firewalls. So firewalls for the longest time confused me. And it's rule ordering, but now I've since been able to figure it out. But yeah, your firewalls, what do you want to allow in, keep out? What kind of port forwarding do you want to allow? And things like that. So your logs, time sync, and things like that. But yeah, you can SSH right into the router as well. So here's your SSH access, the keys you can upload if you want to do passwordless, and then HTTPS access. We can set it to redirect through HTTPS. So now our network communication on the web interface is encrypted. So it's going to take a bit to actually apply all the settings. But yeah, our status page is pretty nice. Yeah, again, you've got different startup stuff and scripts that you can set, scheduled tasks that will run if you set it up there. It's got all your favorite Linux, a lot of your favorite Unix utilities. So you can set flashing stuff, power off, power on, and things like that. So the logs and all that. If you liked the content, if you enjoyed it, if you think I deserve it, comment, subscribe, leave any criticisms you have or what have you. I appreciate it. Feed that algorithm, like I said, and I will see you guys in the next one.